Well, good afternoon, everyone. I've got the almost like the headmaster's task. So I'm going to do two things. Reprise last year's conference, where the theme of my presidency at the Marketing Society is to encourage and to take our society's mission to inspire more marketeers to become leaders of their businesses, chief executives, or whatever the equivalent may be. So I'm going to do a little bit of a school report on that. And then I'm going to touch on, in terms of the spirit of getting out of one's comfort zone, what it feels like from having spent a life of making and selling crisps and biscuits to try and work at a football association. I shall warm to my theme on that one. Anyway, let's just reprise the proposition that Hugh, myself, have been making over the last 18 months. We believe too many companies are run by accountants and not enough by marketeers. And to borrow an analogy from my friends in cricket, that minor sport, accountants can keep the score, but they can't make the runs. All businesses depend on customers and understanding how to create value. That's what they need to do, and marketeers should do that best. That's not a measurement tool, that's inherently a creative and a risk management tool. So the call at last year's conference was for marketeers to reset their objectives and to build their leadership skills. And what I said we'd do at the last conference was get a program together during 2015 of case studies. So let's showcase really good examples of people that have come up through the marketing route and have become successful in a general management situation. I'm just going to summarise some of the conversations that were had over the course of the year. So I'll start with Andy Koslett. He's the chief executive, or just leaving chief executive of Fitness First, but probably many of you may know, has just completed a brilliantly successful job as chairman of the Rugby World Cup, which from a financial point of view, I think was the most successful World Cup ever. Now, Andy, if you know him, is quite a blunt person, and he was quite blunt in his career advice. He said, get out of whatever you're doing now and do something different. So this is in the spirit of, how might you with a marketing background move on to a general management position? Get out and do something different. We also had a conversation with Sir Ian Cheshire, and he took a similar line. Get into other parts of the organisation and learn as much as you can. The CEO has the broadest possible perspective on the organisation. And unless you feel comfortable in all other areas of the business, including finance, including IT and HR, you won't make it to CEO. So get that experience, get some of those different experiences early in your career. More recently, in the last CEO conversation we had was with Jill McDonald, who's one of the very few women CEOs in the FTSE 350. Jill moved from a leadership role at McDonald's to CEO of Halfords. And once again, good advice from her. She said, seek out roles that take you out of your comfort zones and into other areas of the business. She took a step down when she was at BA to work overseas, and she said, I knew it'd be something that would build my skill set, but scare me to death. Spending a period working abroad was another theme that all of the people with whom I had the conversation shared. Andy Koslett, once again, probably more memorably for me, said he recalled about having an assignment when he was at Cadbury's to go and work in Australia. I was 12,000 miles away in a hostile environment, and it was my first big country manager job. There were trade unions, strikes, physical intimidation, and I remember being told he was replacing another Brit who had died. He said, as the boss, you can't make friends with all the guys around yourself, and that experience taught me an awful lot about myself, out of his comfort zone, physically, in terms of country, and also in terms of role. So, not surprisingly, it's a theme for all chief execs that get out of your comfort zone and then do the other thing. And you've heard that reference in various ways this morning. You have to still, we are marketeers, we're fundamentally, at our heart, we have to be good communicators. So if you're going to take that step from marketing to general management, you need to speak the language of the boardroom. Andy Koslett again, you have to be prepared to put your plans and your strategy in terms that they can relate to. Otherwise, marketing will just continue to be seen as waffle. You've got to make the business case and do it in their terms, i.e., as we've just heard from Luke, the terms of capitalism, What is the return? What do I get for what you're going to give me? So you need to be in a role where, and this is my passionate belief about marketing, we have real commercial responsibility. We're not simply in the business, in my view, of producing lovely brand communications, great imagery. We are there to make a business or an organization more successful. If it's a money-making business, to make it more profit sustainably, or if it's a charity, to recruit more people. Marketeers have to be at the heart of the business, driving the kinds of things that the customers of that business value. Now, all of those conversations that I've just briefly summarised, you can see a neat summary of on our website. And next year, and I'd encourage all of you to come and sign up, because they're good evenings. We've got Claire Gilmartin, who's the CEO of Trainline, Paul Geddes of Direct Line, and giving our annual lecture in March, and I'm particularly excited by this, one of a high-profile marketeer in a really tough job, the former Unilever marketeer and now CEO of Tesco, Dave Lewis. So talking about people getting into from out of their comfort zones into something particularly uncomfortable, I think we'll learn a lot from those. So I really, really encourage you to come along. So that's all very well giving advice from other people. Just a few minutes on my experience. So as many of you know, I've spent 34 years in the packaged goods industry. And about, I think, January of this year, I got headhunted to see whether I'd be interested in taking the role of the CEO of the Football Association. It's an interesting candidate brief. You didn't need to have been in football. They wanted someone who could manage change, because the board wanted the FA to reform, open up, and start to become effectively, a more effective organisation. Now, actually, I do have a bit of experience in football. I was on the board of Leicester City for a few years, but I can't claim the credit for them being top of the league, sadly. And I'm a level 1 FA coach, but I never played for money or ever got close. But I do know a bit about football. So the job appealed. And you come back to vision and values. It appealed because I got a strong feeling that I think football could be run better. So that was kind of, why would I give up, a safe career in packaged goods and kind of go to retirement in that way, versus do the FA job, which is anything but a retirement job. And the question that perhaps is worth reflecting on is and I get asked this probably about 2 times a week, what does a bloke who sold crisps know about football? And it's a fair question. And I'd say I'm 8 months in, I've never been more sure and more confident about the essence, about what marketing can deliver an organisation, than I have been at the 8 months at the FA. Because when you boil what we do down, really, marketing, it's all sorts of different types of things, but fundamentally our job is to bring the outside world into a sometimes and often unwilling organisation, to make it change so it can grow in a sustainable way. And when I distill down what I've got to do at the FA, the Football Association, like a lot of football, but the FA, it's the oldest governing body in the world. The FA was founded in 1863 by a group of real insurgents who wanted to codify the rules of football, and since then it's acted like an incumbent and wanted to stop change. The FA has been on the wrong side of history ever since. It was against the professional game about 10 years after the association was started. After World War I, it tried to prevent Sunday football as the country was trying to re-equip itself after the war and running 6 days a week. It was gloriously against the women's game. Here's a little story. 50,000 people watched Everton women's play a game at Goodison Park in the late 1920s. But the FA, in its wisdom, decided that wasn't a proper thing for a young lady to do. And it banned the women's game for a number of years. It didn't see small-sided football, so football's actually in great health, playing in different formats, but it's been slow to see the value in five-a-side and those kind of things. It was even brilliantly, and a bit of a history nut on this, in the mid-1930s, it objected to numbers on shirts. Now, what harm could that do? So if you take, if the precautionary principle is at large in an organisation, it will never ever be an innovative organisation. So really simply, that's my job as I see it, which is how, tradition is a way overrated virtue in sport. In the most global competitive sport in the world, traditions are really overrated virtue. So how do we open up the FA to be more open to new ideas, to innovate, and frankly for both the national teams to do better and also the quality of grassroots experience, for we cover all of it, to improve. And that's the job. So what have I been doing to date? Well, stuff that probably someone like me is familiar with. We've got our costs wrong. We're a non-for-profit organisation, but we spend too much of that organisation's money in sort of managing the costs. So we've been taking money out of back office jobs and putting it into football functions. We've been spending more on the customer, understanding who's in the game. We don't, for example, track people who play football. It's remarkable. You know, there are millions of people who play and we don't know really who they are. Measuring our impact and working on culture, and I couldn't agree more with Peter from Atom saying that, you know, culture does really eat strategy for breakfast. So ultimately what I'm trying to do, and enlisting willing support within the organisation, is we really in the FA, we need to understand more about football than anyone else. So we've now got a marketing, head of marketing, Russell James is here today on my board. We've got an insights function. And then finally, we've also got to, you know, picking up on Dave Brailsford's point, we need to align people to a common set of goals. And risking the obvious pun about goals, which I won't make, you'd think that the role of a football association is obvious. Actually, it isn't within the FA. And the FA's got a tough job because we have we have the richest league in the world with the Premier League. We're the richest football association in the world, the most sophisticated league and club setup. What is the role for a governing body whose job is to both govern the game with words like restraint, control, manage, and promote the game? How do you balance those things off? And not having clarity on that hasn't helped our organisation really sort out what are the most important things to do. So we're going through a really exciting process right now. We've engaged Chime Communications, and we've got to a place that we're about to unroll a set of a vision on the organisation, which we're very excited by. And once again, if from what we heard earlier on this morning, if a vision doesn't cause an intake of breath and a few nervous giggles, then where is it? So I'll share it with you. It's not officially signed off yet. I might have to come back in a year's time and say we didn't get it through. But we think the vision's this simple, which is unite the game to inspire the nation. So we are not competitors with the Premier League and the Football League. We need to harness the fantastic collective power that exists in football to a common aim for English football. And the unite the nation bit is that the country's never been more diverse, and sport is like social media. People have things in common they can talk to, and football is the biggest sport of all. It's a great way of bringing people together. So I think that gives people a reason to get out of bed in the morning. That's, if you like, the lofty, noble purpose of why you'd come to work in a football association. And then the ambition below that is, and it's a tough one, once again controversial, but it has the effect, and we're all marketeers, and you know the value of aligning people. We're saying we need to rebuild, emphasis on the word, rebuild the FA as a world-class organisation. So it shocks people. They say, well, hang on, that means we're not world-class now. No, we're not. Could be, but we're not. And the notion of a world-class service organisation in a world for non-for-profit, that's also been challenged. Hang on, we're non-for-profit, how can we be world-class? And the answer I always give to that, and I'll conclude, is if you compare and contrast two non-for-profit organisations that work for the benefit of their shareholders. The Co-op, when I first started work, the Co-op in 1981 was the biggest food retailer in the country, bigger market share by a long way than Tesco, and now in food it barely ranks at all. And John Lewis, Britain's most admired retailer. You can be a non-for-profit organisation and still be intensely professional and intensely good, and that's what excites me. So I'm very excited about we'll make the Football Association even better. That will translate itself into tournament success, to better grassroots experience, to we can absolutely catalyse the growth of the women's game. We do fantastic work with disabled football, all sorts of things. You're going to hear more about that, but that's what we can go and do, and we'll do more of. And I'm convinced that actually a marketing mindset helps do it. So one of the cliches that I've peddled for the last year or two since I've been doing this role is that behind any successful business or organisation, or behind any unsuccessful business or organisation, is either a marketing success or a marketing failure. And I think that's as true for the FA as it is for any of your organisations. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you tonight, and hopefully at some of these upcoming CEO conversations over the balance of the year and into 2016. Thank you.